This is Resonance, a podcast for leaders that unpacks the power of song, silence, and strategy.
We believe that great leadership begins with deep listening, not just to others, but to the still small voice within.
It's not just about being a successful leader, it's about being soulfully aligned as well.
In a world moving fast, Resonance invites you to pause and reconnect with purpose, people, and possibility.
We'll dive into some cool stories, celebrate with friends, and dig deep into the music too. 'Cause song has a way of saying what words cannot alone.
So whether you're leading a business, a team, or just trying to lead your own life with more meaning, this is Resonance.
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 Hey, welcome to Resonance, the podcast. And my name is Randy Harrington, but joining me are my compatriots in wisdom, Mike, the monk guy, Ferrell, and of course, the one and only Steve Azar, legend of music from the Delta, Mississippi Delta, and still changing the world with songs. Fantastic. Anyway, I'm fired up to be here because it's the holiday time and it is Christmas time. And first of all, whatever your celebrations, whatever your background, whatever your faith, we wish you a wonderful holiday experience this year. And I'm going to do my best not to Grinch it all up in the conversation that we're about to have, because I got me some problems and we're going to get them all aired out today. So that's what's happening. And to start us on this spiritual journey, I'm going to go to the monk guy, Mike Ferrell. Help me understand Christmas. Why do I get so weird at this time of year, my friend?
Well, I think it's easy to do. We have built up this Christmas season as, this spectacle. I think I saw the first Christmas ad like the second week of October. And so that's the buildup, and all the buildup that happens all the way up to Christmas Day. And so we have all these expectations. We have all these things. We think all of this stuff is going to, be this magical experience and family coming in. I know, Randy, you got a tribe there now. And, all of the stuff that's going to happen, the celebrations, the meals, the presents, all those kinds of things. But I think it's important that when we think about Christmas, we think about a simple beginning. We think about the reason Christmas is even Christmas. It goes back to that stable in Bethlehem 2,000 plus years ago in a very small, simple setting, a very poor setting from what we understand. I think it's something that we really need to think about. And we're going to talk about it today, not only from a standpoint of those humble beginnings, but also from a standpoint of how do we really focus on the small things, not only during this holiday season, but as we go forward in our leadership journey, in our work, in those kinds of things, really focusing on the small, ordinary things versus the spectacles and the events and all the big stuff that happens. I wrote about it in Monk Principles a couple weeks ago, and that focusing on the small, simple things versus this idea of all the big stuff is really important. And I know, Steve, we've had conversations about it from your perspective, even from a songwriting standpoint, really thinking about the simple things, the small things that might be the things that kind of trip the creative wire, so to speak, and get you thinking about that. Maybe you've got something that comes to mind regarding that.
For me, first of all, I've always been a fan of Thanksgiving because I know Christmas is coming. I also know that in my business, it winds down. And not only does it wind down, everybody goes dark. It gets very dark in our business. You can't find anybody. If you're not in a certain place on the record charts when you have a song out, then your record will not survive after Christmas. There's always these things that you have to work toward to hope that your record's still alive when you come back, because Christmas songs take over, rightly so and all that. And it's amazing what can happen to a record afterwards.
I really hadn't thought about it that way.
Man. It's like, because you got to realize the charts they'll freeze. So whatever happened the last chart, which was a week before Christmas, whatever happens 2 weeks later, your record label has to sure up all of these program directors around the country and make sure, look, we've got this many spins this week. If we get less than that when we come back that first week, then we're going to lose our bullet, is what it's called. And when you lose your bullet, it's blood in the water for sharks, So shark bait. and every other record label, oh, that record didn't make it and all that. So you got to survive all that. And that happened to me with Waiting on Joe. I mean, Waiting on Joe was about to cross into the top 20s. It was healthy. It was rocking. The video was about to go number one. You know, Morgan Freeman's in it. We're rolling. We come off a number 2 Billboard hit and a number 1 video, and we're rolling. And we went into the holidays. Everything looked perfect. We came back. The label just dropped the ball. And because of that, they weren't able to get it back. And so I've been a good example of that, where we thought we were going to have another top 5 record, and the holidays sort of stumped us a little bit. So, with that said, you think about, I think it's the little stuff along the way, the songs you write along the way, the relationships that you build, the time, especially with other songwriters, you become very vulnerable in a room with a certain group of them. Once the guard is down, and once the guard's down, it's a free for all, and there's nothing each of you don't know about each other. I mean, you sort of bear it all, and there's such honesty in the room that you can't run from it. And obviously, when you get toward the holidays, you get a little bit even more vulnerable and a little bit more emotional and a little bit more excited about finally being with family for a stretch of time, and not being in the tour bus, or not being gone, because that's what you are during the year when you're in really heavy touring work mode. I was always more of the concept of whether it was because I had no choice, which is part of it, or whether it's because sort of that's all I ever knew. Is I wouldn't do a record and go promote it and tour and then get off the road. I always was on the road. Once I could get back on the road, I couldn't wait. You know, that time in Nashville between not playing gigs, which is what I grew up doing a lot, and then all of a sudden you're waiting to get out on the road, and nobody in Nashville knows that you've ever played a gig in your life. And when then they see you play, they go, "Oh, you've been doing this forever." Well, not really, because I had a 5-year lapse there, you know? So you also go through these emotions that you forget how to do it. I mean, how natural is it, and organic and real? But it's funny, you know, for most of us that have been doing it since we were younger, it's the bike thing. Just got to get right back on the bike, and it feels all brand new again, and it makes sense when you're on stage. I spent Christmas, guys, and New Year's. We moved into our house in Franklin on the 24th. I was with Bob Seger at the Palace in Michigan on the 25th. I came home to move some more on the 26th. I flew, and then I flew back the next morning to play another show with Bob at the Palace on the 27th. And we kept doing this back and forth. So I remember moving in my house. We had 4 shows by the time New Year's happened in the Palace in Detroit before. Wow. And so that was my great move. But that was my greatest memory of Christmas. It was exhilarating, but I was tired, you know, because we kept going back and forth and trying to get the kids and my wife win, and my kids settled into this new home, which was foreign to them. And at the same time, try to have Christmas. So anyway, but I think in a nutshell, I had a lot of years where it was really a time for reflection, why we celebrate Christmas. You know, when you're not married and you don't have kids, it's you know, you've got your other family, the one you're raised in, and you got your friends, but it's another level of everything, you know. And when you become the man of the house, I guess you're responsible for a lot of happiness, you know. But at the same time, I hope that we were always injecting in our kids the real reason for Christmas, that Mary, who was conceived by the Holy Spirit and had this incredible child who would change our lives. And you hope that you get that point across, and that you celebrate that. And it's also a time to be grateful.
Right on. Yeah. Well, I like that you were able to see that. And I do, when I look back on Christmases, often the ones where there was, you know, complexity or challenges or difficulty wind up being some of the more interesting and heartfelt experiences that are out there. And sometimes the ones that are super produced and well produced and everything went off without a hitch, whatever, you know, it was like a party, but not as powerful as it might be. And so when we get down to it, and so this is, you know, as we're looking ahead to the holiday, right? So Christmas is coming, it's going to be on us. I think one of the things that I'm hearing from you, Steve, is that you have to get your mind right to be around family. You have to understand that this is a big gear shift for most professionals that are running and gunning all year long. And now you're going to be home for 2, 3, 5 days or 2 weeks or whatever it is. And how do you kind of acclimatize yourself to really having open conversations with your family, your wife and your kids and your extended family and so forth? For me, I have to like really consciously psych up for that. I have to sort of go, oh, okay, I need to be here. I need to be still. I need to listen. Right. You know, I just have to punch all those buttons in my brain.
Yeah.
And if I don't, then I suffer, and the family doesn't have a good time or a relaxed time.
Right.
That is interesting
Yeah,
that
I
you
know
bring
from-
that up.
Because we set the tone, whether we believe it or we were talking about being the head of the household, as it were. If you are either one of the primary earners for it, it's on your shoulders, and your attitude is going to change everything. And I really struggle with that because I
Yeah.
can get bitter about the commercialization and the me, I stuff that seems to come along with the season that I don't care
Yeah,
for.
I think the challenge is how do we turn things off to be present?
There you
How do
go.
we, how do we shut down all of the noise, all of the hoopla, all of the other stuff, not to mention all the stuff that's going on in our work? How do we shut that off to be present to those that really need it, that need for us to be present? And I think that's the biggest challenge for me. I will this episode will air on the 18th, and I will shut down on Monday the 22nd. And at that point on, it'll be all about Christmas. I'll get into the kitchen and start working the magic there, and but that's my way to be present, is to really be able to just completely turn off everything else and say, okay, now this is all about family. This is all about the holiday. This is all about the reason behind Christmas. And so it'll be a time that not only will I take that time to turn off all the noise and all that kind of stuff, but I'll also make sure that I find time to reflect and to be grateful and to really think about what's happened this past year and all of the things that have been good, and maybe all the challenges. There've been a few challenges for me this year too. So thinking about what those are, but I think when you're able to, and it's not easy, but if and when you're able to turn off that exterior noise of the hoopla and the season and the commercialization and all that kind of stuff, and just be present to
Yes.
yourself and to others, I think that's the challenge.
So you guys bring up something very just both of you right there. A, B, I'm going to C right now, and then D, all of the above. I was really good at the road and being consistent and being in the moment and being level. But when I went home, especially for small periods, I was a mess looking back, meaning I was all in really fast. So I was in road shape, but I wasn't in home shape, if that makes
Yes,
sense.
yes. Oh no,
Yeah.
I've been there.
Threw the whole plan up for Gwen, who was in there trying to have some structure to the kids' life. And here I come in like a tornado. And I think we've talked about this on other podcasts, but you come in and I tire out with all of the stuff that goes along with it, right? So I started feeling a little bit restless during the period. It reminded me of growing up and knowing a good friend of mine whose dad was a riverboat captain. And I remember everybody couldn't wait to see him. We go see him. He was so interesting and tell stories. But I always felt like, even as a kid, that he was not really settled in his chair. Something was bubbling, and he didn't look comfortable.
Right.
And I realized that the river took over his life. And I wrote this song years ago with a buddy of mine named Ray Van Hoy called "The River's Working."
One of my favorites.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was about him. After a moment shooting the Waiting on Joe video, when the captain walks out with a coffee cup, and it was 102 degrees, and he holds it up, and it's just me and him for the last shot of looking at the old Mississippi River Bridge, and he holds his coffee cup up, and I swear, I think it was so hot we were sweating, but was it tears? And he goes, "The river's working." And he was emotional. And I looked at him and I got cold in 102 degrees. And I went, oh my God. So I had another day. Well, actually had another day of video shoot in Clarksdale with Morgan Freeman and everybody. And so I was finishing my river scene. Guys, every single shot that I did, I promise you I was 90% unpresent because that song was churning in my mind in that moment.
Sure.
So writing it in, but that's how I've been sort of geared up and sort of programmed my whole life. And so now I feel like, as I slowed down a little bit with that road part and being on the bus, the plane, and being gone 240, 50 days a year, now I feel like that, I feel like I may be a little bit more in home shape, and I'm hoping that's the case.
Well, and I think that the Viking cruise thing has allowed you to get more into home shape for sure.
Yeah.
that's this wonderful bridge where you can be home. But I think your point is super smart. For those of you listening, if you have not heard the Azar song "The River's Working," you got to check it out. The reason I love that song, for musically, I think it's fantastic, but it really speaks to the ethos of the working man.
Yeah.
And I use man here specifically. I think the same thing could be said about a working woman. Don't get me wrong
Yeah.
there, but in this case, it is about this idea of you're just going to give your life over to this thing, and you know it. It's the thing you have to do if you're going to make a living, and there's no other option. And I think that's what you say in the song. If you ain't living, if you're not working, you're waiting to die, or something to that effect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I do think that everybody who has this work obsession, which you almost have to be successful these days, has got to figure out how to deprogram and how to back down, how to get into a neutral gear for the holiday, and at the very least, just be still.
Right.
You know, so I would argue that if we're having that issue, that this issue is profound. And then you go and you find the people that are working 2.5 jobs or 3 jobs, and they're still wondering how they're going to be able to pay their bills at the end of the month.
Exactly.
And
All that stuff. That's right.
all
What about
that's
that part of it?
yeah, I
Right.
mean, geez, when you take a look at those economic stresses, I was on a call this morning with an individual who's going to lose healthcare at the end of the year, and is freaking out about that, and rightly so. And so, you know, how do you find the time in your heart and soul to have some peace? The other thing, and I'm going to shut up. The other thing that I picked up out
Why
of you,
would you
Steve,
shut
is
up?
this
This is
idea.
part of the deal. Don't shut up.
The idea, though, that this time is for me, July is also a time that also goes a little bit dark in terms of the corporate rhythm. A lot of corporations have their June 30th fiscal year. And so once that's over, there's sort of this sort of break, and almost all stop. And Christmas is certainly, because we're finishing a calendar fiscal year, Jan 1, is a fiscal year for many people. And it's the same kind of break in the cycle of work and professionalism. And so how do we make the most of that downtime? How do we make the most of that little break instead of just kind of flailing around and, I don't know. I don't know what it means to be mentally healthy during this period of time. Help me out, Mike.
Well, I think, again, I think that the whole aspect here of focusing on the small stuff that's meaningful, not thinking that we've got to create this, spectacular Christmas event or Christmas dinner or Christmas gathering or, have all the great presents or all those kinds of things. And I think from a leadership perspective, it translates over, because I think too many times leaders look at it from a standpoint that they have to create. And Randy, you've certainly seen many of them in your work, and Steve in your work as well. These people that think they have to create these spectacles,
Yes.
when if they really just focus on the small, ordinary things of day-to-day work and life and being present with others and listening with the ear of their heart and those kinds of things, they would make so much more progress. And I think that's the challenge that the holiday brings. To listen with the ear of your heart during this time of year can be really difficult, because a lot of things and a lot of people are trying to get your ear's attention.
Yes.
And I think that being able to tune some of that stuff out can be extremely difficult. And I think for me, it's making sure that I have quiet time, that I have that time to just reflect. And I have to be very intentional about doing that and about scheduling it, because I understand in my own heart and in my own mind that if I don't get that, I can't be present to those that need me to be present. And so being able to have that quiet place, that quiet time, whether it's 15 minutes or half an hour or an hour in the morning or in the evening or whatever, I think being able to really be consistent with that and not just doing it, haphazardly, but being consistent and being intentional and really listening to your own heart first, and listening to God's voice within it, and then being able to be present for others in order to, to continue to grow that. So for me, that aspect of really the reflection, the quiet time, leads me to a quiet place in my mind where I can be there for my family, for my friends, for the people that need me to be there for them.
I love it. I heard a person of wisdom say something recently that I liked very much. He said, if you decide you're going to have a party at your house, there's a good chance what you're going to do is move some furniture out of the way. You're going to create an open space that's there. And it's going to, when you do that, you're going to look at your own home and you're going to go, wow, it looks empty. It doesn't look the same because all that furniture is not there anymore. But then when the people show up and it's now full of people, all of a sudden it's got its own vitality in this whole bunch of life. And I think what he was trying to say is you need emptiness, you need space. You need that stillness. If you're going to have the party, then you've got to create that space for it. And so what you're saying is what you do with your quiet time is you create the capacity in your mind to be able to listen really intently to whomever you're talking to. And for me, I will, if I go to holiday parties, I will tell you I go. I've rarely ever said,
Yeah.
but
Randy, I think your attitude is me and Mike got to spruce up your attitude.
this is what I'm saying, man. This is I need some help. But when I go, I usually will have something where I'll be like, I will have some sort of plan. And one of my plans, for example, is I like to talk to people that are older than me. So I'll go find the old people there and I'll sidle up to them and have some conversations, because often they're confused. They don't know what's going on, or they can't figure out what's happening, or they're grumpy about something. And so I can go over there and I learn something from them almost all the time. Or I'll go in and say, okay, I'm going to spend there's a whole bunch of kids that are going to be here and I'm going to just go sit on the floor and I'm just going to be at kid height and just listen to just watch them and understand what they're doing. And so I go in with a plan like that. Usually that falls away pretty quickly, but I almost always leave having enjoyed the experience, having gotten something from it where I got to see that person or have that conversation, or it reconnected me with something. So it usually always works out to be good, but the chit chat, oh, hi, how are you? What's going on?
I've had some pretty good chit chats so far. A couple of, and I got to tell you something, I'm always about, I made this stupid comment years ago to Gwen, a long time ago. We're going to go see such and such. This is, I think it was maybe one of our kids' deals. And you never know, we might meet some new friends. I said, I don't need any new friends. And I said that, right? And she goes, what did you just say? I said, I don't need any new friends. I can count them on more than one hand, so I'm good. And I was really just being like, trying to be stubborn. Some of those people at that place, two of them came from our best friends in the world. Almost the reason we didn't leave Nashville. And then since I've been home, that just reminded me that the sky's the limit. And since we started our foundation and all these friends we've made and friends that we've connected that you would have never had these chances to meet, and how it's like now I love as many as, it's like what great story can come from relationships being built next. And it's really been moving. And also it comes from sometimes the most ordinary backgrounds. And I've seen people that hated somebody because they were a star athlete at another school that used to pounce on them, but literally be in the wedding 2 years later. Yep. And that says it all. And they've gotten so close with each other, and that's just another example. But it's been amazing. I met a couple the other night that I never talked to, that have been supportive of a lot of things that we do, but they're always in the crowd, and I've never had the chance.
Yep.
We're at their house, and I left there going like, how could I have never spent time with him?
Right.
And then what a great guy. What a great guy. I want to know more about him. And then how about his wife? And it's just wonderful. And they were wonderful people. And I thought, well, there you go, Steve. So I used to be a little bit in that defensive mode. Yeah. And once that happened and we met some friends that last forever, then I realized that I need to be open to it. So I go in there with a better attitude.
I
have no plan.
I think it's this whole concept of expectation. I mean, how many times when we were kids did we expect Santa Claus to bring us something and we didn't get it? And then it just kind of ruined the rest of Christmas. I go to one of my all-time favorite movies, The Christmas Story. The BB gun's going to shoot his eye out, and he doesn't get the BB gun. At least he doesn't think he gets the BB gun. And of course he's bummed out and that kind of thing. So many times I think we go into this holiday, and I think so many times we go into things in general with these great expectations that something good is going to happen or something bad is going to happen. Either one. It can be both,
Right.
And we go into it with these expectations, and then something totally different happens. Mm-hmm. And I think the art of setting aside expectations and going in just open is something that I think it's one of the most challenging things that we have we have to do as human beings. But when we can do that, when we can just set those expectations aside and say, let's just experience it. Let's just
Yes.
experience what's going to happen, who we're going to meet, who we're going to talk to, who's going to come to me with something in a meeting rather than expecting things to happen. Let's experience things happening.
You think Randy is a little bit like this? I'm speaking on your behalf in a good way right now, Randy, because I love you. You're one of my favorite, both of you are two of my favorite people on earth. But with that said, you spend time and you give a whole lot of your mind and heart and soul to the working world and the folks in that world. And maybe the older guys, he's probably been retired for a while, or maybe the kids aren't there yet, and you need a little bit of something else maybe in your life because you feel like maybe you're gonna be back in work mode. Maybe like the minute I get there and I'm talking to somebody my age, then or your age, that that that's gonna turn, and all of a sudden you're the consultant again.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a part of it for sure. It's just so easy. People will ask you how your year is, and so
Yeah.
what I figured out to do now is to just have a short answer to that question, and then very quickly ask them a question because I'm truly more interested in what
Yeah.
they're about. Right?
Right, right.
I don't feel this need to kind of
Yeah.
put anything else out there for folks.
But now,
But yeah,
Randy,
I
it
think
really
that's a big
would be
part
awesome
of
to hear. I mean, some people I think just say it, right?
yeah.
Some people actually really want to know.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Right.
And I have to discern that. What
Yeah.
I have been finding though is what I would say, and you were talking about expectations, Mike. Sometimes I'll have some image of a person that I only see once a year at a Christmas party. And then I go and I see them and I'm expecting them to be the same person that they were last year. And I'm always struck by, oh, wow, this person's wow, they finished their degree, or wow, they did this other thing, or wow, okay, they're somehow at another level of what
Right.
they're talking about. And so I love it when I have those conversations where I walk away feeling better about a whole family or whatever, because wow, this person's really, you can see it in them. They've kind of lit up as a person. But yeah, I think that what happens when you do consulting work is you take on so much stuff from so many people that it's easy to begin to think, well, I've got no more room for any more stuff. It's not true, of
Right.
course. This is your own crap that you're running through in your own mind. But it's easy to make yourself feel victimized by otherwise well-intended social gatherings, and it's, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to talk to anybody. But
Right.
almost
Right.
always, once I get over that hump, it's a good thing. It's funny. We cold plunge in our house. We have a tub that's always at 50 degrees, and at least once a day we go and jump into that thing, and it is never pleasant. It's not like it is not like you get used to it and you go, oh, now it's much better. The only thing that you get used to is you realize it's only going to suck for about 60 seconds. And then your body adjusts and adapts and everything is fine. But the first 60 seconds are never good. And I kind of feel that way about holiday parties. I feel like when I go, like, oh, okay, I have to deal with this. And then I do, and then everything is good and I'm better for it. I mean, I finally am maybe able to get out of my own head a little bit. And let's talk about the small stuff for just a second, because I love it when people cook things that they only cook during this time of year, or it's a
Interesting.
special thing.
Yeah.
Norwegians are big for this, the kroomkagas and the glugen.
Lutefisk.
Yeah, oh, lutefisk, yes. I love that kind of holiday effect, holiday cheer that shows up in somebody crafting some amazing morsel of food. And so I do think that cooking is one of the great ways that the celebration of Christmas unfolds. It is truly about nourishment and sustenance and joy, and therefore, yay. So when I walk into a party and I see somebody went to Costco and bought nine boxes of cookies and popped them open, all
And
right.
those little meatballs or those little sausage, like that same sauce. Although I wish we could be the company that made that sauce, but that's okay.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Good,
mean,
hey,
for
that's a
me,
good point.
go ahead. Steve.
No,
Go
you
ahead.
go ahead.
I mean, for me too, it's not only that small act, but because I love to cook and God blessed me with the ability to do so, it's the gift I give.
Yeah.
It's really taking that time to make sure, the tradition at our house on Christmas Eve is I make this killer lasagna, and
I'm on
I
the
don't
way.
I don't have an ounce of Italian in me, but somehow, some way, I figured out how to make a killer lasagna, and all of the kids want it on Christmas Eve, and so
Nice.
that's that thing, and I put the love into it. Boy, I'll tell you what, it takes me 2 days to make that, make that stuff. That's the gift, the small gift that I get to give them is just that gift of a wonderful meal.
Can I
Now,
say
how are you guys on decorations? Are you big decorators? Do you?
wait, back up 1 second because I got to stay on lasagna right now. First of
Okay.
all, I think there's a little bit of Italian in everybody if they let it in.
Yeah.
Second of all, do you know what we're having this year on Christmas Eve? We're having lasagna.
Nice.
Feed the 25, 26 people. And
Yeah.
we've never done that when that just came to us this year. I'm gonna make some pizzas on our pizza oven and all that just for more appetizers. But we thought let's do lasagna. Now, before we go any further than that, which is amazing, you do your bechamel sauce and you do the red sauce, you do a combo.
Yep.
Yep.
I do.
Yep.
I don't need to ask you anything else.
I do.
Yep.
I do a
And
combo
always,
too.
and always a combo of Italian sausage and ground beef and pork.
Why do you have to go any further? I didn't need to hear
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I'm jumping on a
Five-
plane to Dakota right now.
yeah, five different cheeses.
My gosh. This is the
I know
problem.
where you got the idea for lasagna.
What?
Go back and look at your pictures that you got in text, because you and I were texting that back and forth on Christmas Eve a year ago. I sent you a picture of the lasagna.
Well, that's what happened. It was still in my mind. And I was having the conversation with my sister, younger sister, and I said, why are we the best thing? So it had to be that.
Yeah.
But you're right. You were showing me that last year, but I wasn't going there in my head, but it must have been subliminally implanted for the future. But guys, the three of us, if we're going to talk about cooking for a second, and then Randy jump in.
Sure.
Cooking, to me, we've talked the time and the prep of cooking. If you take the time with your loved ones, your family members, your friends, and that's the time for conversation while you're cooking and creating and sharing that moment, that is the time you get to know everybody in your life. I will always fight for that. I believe that it's the most important time, not the meal time, the cooking time.
Yeah,
I'm
and
right
there's a
there with
reason
you.
why everybody gathers in the kitchen.
Exactly. That's right. Randy, what were you going to say before I rudely interrupted?
No. That was great. I'm perfectly happy with us taking a pause around the kitchen piece, because that really is where Christmas happens, is in that space. And so, love the cooks in your house and take good care of them. It's a beautiful thing. And I know I'm totally looking forward to next week, largely because I'm going to be making some complex dishes over multiple days as well. And that's just what you do. It's
and that's your
fantastic.
thing. And you love it.
I do. I do.
Yeah.
One of the things I do struggle with, though, is crap all over the place. And so my wife, we've been married a long, long time. And if it was her way, it would be Babes in Toyland around here. It would be, the full meal deal. But I've slowly got her down to the point where we still have, I think, a lot of stuff that comes out.
Randy, I call it floor chaos.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
if your floor is chaotic, you cannot have visual peace inside and outside of your house.
That's what I'm
Like,
saying.
I'm out there with the blower, and Gwen goes, "What do you see out there?" I said, "Do you not see that? You all see all cypress needles everywhere and in the pool? I don't see it." I said, "Well, I see it, and I'm going to get it right now." And then I'll make her look, and she goes, "It looks the same as it did." I said, "I get nothing. I get nothing."
You get nothing. You get no love right there.
Those things don't bother her.
And I think that point, that idea of floor chaos, think of it from a leadership perspective. When we've got all of this chaos that we're looking at, it's hard to focus on the important stuff. And we get hung up in the little details that are driving us crazy. I mean, I can't tell you how many leaders I've worked with over the years that they're so hung up in the little, minutia stuff that means nothing, that they can't focus on the bigger stuff that's more important. And I love that term, floor chaos. I'm going to steal that, Steve.
You got it. You got it.
You're going to see that one in Among Principles.
I see some in there right now. I can see
So
some.
I was dating my wife in high school we were both in high school. She lived about 100 yards away from me, and I spent a lot of time at her house because her house was the fun house. That's where cool things happened. My parents, my father in particular, and this was in Hawaii, so it was not unusual to have an artificial tree. But ever since I've known my father, it was about an artificial tree. We shipped it everywhere we moved. He was a military man, right? The tree came out of the box, and it was the same tree year over year, and it had to be decorated in a particular way with a particular, string of white lights and everything. Very, very precise. And then I go to my wife's house, and somehow they got a real tree in Hawaii. I don't know how they did it, but there's a big old real Christmas tree in there. I was like, wow, how did you do that? And then they decorated the entire thing with the really big all red Christmas lights. And I could see the red glow from the house as I'm walking to the house. I mean, this thing was it was a big, bright red tree. And I guess my parents' taste was more mine. This thing looked garish compared to our very elegant, pristine little tree. And it was only after Christmas that I learned why they did that. And it's because Patty's father, Buff, is colorblind. The only color he can see is red.
Wow.
And so this is the way the mom said, this is your Christmas tree. This is the way I'm showing you I love you. And to this day, if we have red lights on our tree, I'm cool with it because it means it's a sign of love. And
Right.
it's not just a tacky Christmas tree.
Right.
There's actually something behind it. And every one of the ornaments might have been handmade or whatever, clunky and gunky, but they came from somewhere and they all had meaning, and they weren't
Right.
Villery and Bosch or whatever the thing that, they weren't swanky.
Yeah.
It was more real. And that really resonated strongly with me as far as Christmas and Christmas decorations.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. We try, when Ann and I travel, we always try and find an ornament that is part of that travel. And so our tree's full of that stuff,
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good thing. We went and we just got ours here in Oregon. The Christmas trees are abundant. But we went and did the whole thing with the hayride out and had our 2-year-old granddaughter. Yeah.
You do have Christmas trees in Oregon, by the way.
We were hip deep in Christmas trees out here.
No shortage of them there.
So beautiful.
We have telephone poles in South Dakota.
Yeah. Pretty though. Well, hey, go ahead.
When people try to outdo one another in terms of holiday things, I think it's okay for Halloween. If you want to go crazy with Halloween, knock yourself out, game on, whatever. But Christmas, I still think I like things understated. I like things that are a little bit more welcoming and profound,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a challenge. So one quick rant, and then I'll get off of this piece. We were talking about how small things make big things. And so I've been deep into quantum physics and chemistry over the last year and a half. And I finally heard someone explain this very clearly to me. It turns out all snowflakes have a six-sided structure, six-sided crystalline structure, all of them. Now, the structure will change based on how dry the air is or how moist the air is and things like that. You can get very elaborate structures or very simple structures. And generally speaking, the more dry it is, the more simple the structure will be as far as the snowflake. But why is that? Why does that happen? Well, snow is just water, right? So what's water? Water is H2. It is 1 atom of hydrogen, 2 of oxygen. Actually looks like this. It's a triangle where your two oxygen atoms are down here and the hydrogen atom is up there. And it is that triangular shape of that molecule that creates the six-sided motif that is a snowflake. All right, so far so good. But how do you make water out of H2O? And it turns out that the hydrogen atoms actually dynamically exchange places. And it is the dynamic exchanging of places between those hydrogen atoms that creates water, that creates wetness, the experience and feeling of wetness. So the point is, you'll never have wetness with H2O. You only have wetness when lots of H2O gets together. It is the small thing turning into the composite thing where all of a sudden now it has the experience of all the fluidity that we understand water to be and all of the characteristics, understanding that if it gets cold, it'll turn rock solid and so forth.
Right.
But it is literally everything is like that. It is this attraction of the tiniest pieces to the other tiny pieces that allow this composite to be made. and it becomes the world around us. And so if you do take some time to empty your mind a little bit and to be really still and deeply appreciate that tree in your backyard or whatever else it is that you've looked at a million times, and now maybe you're going to actually look at it in terms of the miracle of chemistry, physics, and the spirit of the Lord in the world pervading all of this stuff, that really the world that we're sitting in is a remarkably beautiful, complex entity.
Yeah, and it ends up looking like artwork from no other artist
Exactly.
in the world that can do it.
Yep,
It's just
yep.
like the sky
That's
every
the
morning different.
The supreme artist,
Pretty
right?
dang good, I may add. Pretty dang good. Yeah.
And what I'm realizing is no matter how small you go,
Yeah.
or how
Yeah.
astronomically large you go, the same
Yeah.
holds true,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's those things that really do help me get a sense of place in the universe, understanding I ain't all that important at the end of the day, and I'm just a part of whatever else is going
Yeah.
on around here, and I'm dependent
Yep.
on the people and the things and the places around me, and have some graciousness for that.
Amazing.
And I
Yeah.
think to wrap that all together, to think about it from a standpoint of the humble beginning of the birth of our Lord on Christmas Day and all of the small, simple things around that birth, and now to look at it 2,000 plus years later and what it's meant to the world it's that small, humble beginning that has become Christianity as we know it today.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have Christmas without it. So with that, I think it's time to wrap us up. So Randy, you want to bring us home?
Well, I greatly appreciate the need to get quiet, the need for some space in your world so that you can have other people in it. The power of cooking is not to be messed with. The power of good lasagna is is a huge thing. And Steve, I think that listening to you talk about how you have moments in writing and in the production of music, the story of you getting a chill when it was 102 degrees outside because you had this moment of awareness. I mean, I think that's what we're all looking for, is these moments where you go up and you just have that zap of awareness and of love, agape, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So there you go. And a Merry Christmas, a Merry Holiday for those of you that are from different faiths and different traditions. Also, let's all celebrate that together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From our house, blessed Merry Christmas and holiday to everyone. You guys, I love you guys, and it has
Back
been a
at
true joy. We're wrapping up season 1 here of Resonance,
Woohoo.
and wishing everybody a fantastic holiday. Steve, anything else?
ResonanceLeader.com. You can check us out and follow us and
There you
give us
go.
love. Spread the word. I think we're growing a little bit out there, hearing great response on what we're achieving to do. But this time does let me reflect on my love for you guys and appreciation before love. Appreciation for all that you both have given to me intellectually and in every beautiful way possible. Intellectually, it's natural for you guys, but the other part also, the compassion. I think that's what really sets you guys off, and your values and all that, and that levels me off, and it's a beautiful thing to be around you guys.
Right back at you, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank
All right,
you.
everybody, have a happy holiday. We will not be airing on Christmas Day, and we will kick off season 2 on January 1st. So listen up for that new episode of season 2 coming on January 1st, 2026. Hard to believe I'm saying that, huh?
Can't believe it.
Take care, guys.
Thanks for listening to Resonance. Find us at resonanceleader.com.